for the most part, urban Dharma, compared to, I think, most other Buddhist centers even, we have mainly not said or done much. We don't even post a list of, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. In the end, these are what we call conventions. It's a set of conventions. The set of conventions is a set of conventions, first of all, as a way for us to train. You can bring some chairs right in front of that too. So it's a set of conventions, as in a set of conventions to help us to kind of mark a shift, the whole idea of a temple, the whole idea of a sacred space. Probably what we should really do is to relate to all spaces as sacred. Yeah. But until that becomes kind of second nature, so then we have training spaces. So we have temples. So in each sacred space of each tradition, there's a set of conventions. So that's one side of that. The other side of that I also want to mention is, of course, especially because of how history has kind of played out, which means then that there's a history of Western colonial powers in Asia. So there are some baggage sensitivities. And now that we are a Dharma center in the West, and we are on Zoom, and we are everywhere. So people from other parts of the world, including traditional in Asia, also see what we do. And as a generosity towards that and towards that set of sensitivities, that we've decided, okay, we should say something. In fact, even the respectful part, right? I don't really believe anybody, comes in here like, I'm not going to be respectful. It's just different conventions. And then, of course, being aware. So, in fact, for example, Zen spaces are deliberately designed to bring a lot of presence of mind and awareness to the point of paranoia. There's a book called, which I used to assign students to read, called Eat, Sleep, Sit. This is the experience of a then youngish Japanese man who decided that he's going to go sign up to train at one of the main training centers for the Soto Zen tradition. So then he lived to tell his experience. and it was like, yeah, it's a deliberate pressure cooker down to the kind of precision. It's designed to do that, to heighten the whole time that you are there, until it gets into second nature and PTSD maybe. That's definitely not our style per se. Just to point out, that different conventions, that different approaches to this. So anyway, generally speaking here, especially the way that we've been talking about this set of steps for cultivating the mind, it's really important to kind of strike the kind of balance where mind is present, but mind is not even, I hesitate to even use the word alert because that has certain connotations, of like a laser-like mind, like, very strong, very powerful, but a little kind of tight, That's not the approach here. So it's a way to bring the mind to the present place, to be with this body in a soft way, in a natural way. And then to provide the mind the right conditions for it to not want to wander and run around. You can either build a cage and shove the mind in there, right? And say, stay there for your own good, which is probably true a lot of times, right? But that doesn't really help in the long run, because constantly you have to shove the mind back into the cage for timeout. You need to sit there quietly now. Rather than doing that, right, we figure out how to provide the conditions for the mind to not go berserk, for the mind to be steady, for the mind not to exhaust itself, and not to inflame the body. So the body and mind become happy to have each other and appreciate each other, and then just settle. So let us begin with the opening recitations on page 1. Again, another set of conventions. If we don't know how to relate to conventions, then we end up fighting it in one form or another. If we know how to relate to conventions, these conventions provide the conditions for us to settle into ease. O Mother, sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path of liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All Mother, sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path of liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind until death. I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind from now until this time tomorrow. I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent. I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent. I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent. I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. You protector who possesses great kindness, all-knowing teacher, perfect one, basis of oceans of merit and qualities, homage to you, the Tathagata, purity, the cause of freedom from attachments, virtue that liberates from the lower realms. This alone is the sublime ultimate reality. Homage to the Dharma that pacifies, having been liberated. You show the path to liberation. Devoted to the moral precepts, you are a field of perfect qualities. Homage to you, the sublime Sangha. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. You can put the text aside. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to basically do a guided meditation through the steps that are given in these 16 stages. We're not going to do all 16. We're going to focus on the first 4 that is in the set of 16. So before the set of 4 out of the 16, there are 4 points that I see them as kind of like the working basis or the foundation of the 16 that comes. So we're going to start with those four. So this works better, I would say, although it doesn't require, but this works better if you have heard the last two classes, because then the words that are repeated right from the sutra, what the Buddha taught, those words will just, it will trigger those understandings that we've been talking about. And no matter what your kind of background with meditation is, perhaps some of you have learned the types of meditation where you focus your mind on a sound, an object, and then you try to kind of push away anything else that is not the object, not the sound, not the image. This is really not the approach here. Right? In a way, temporarily let go of other ideas that you have of what meditation should be. Of course, in the end, you can do whatever you want, because I don't know what's going on in your head. That much I can guarantee you. And I can also guarantee you, I'm not a humble person. So it's just the truth. I have no idea what's going on in your mind. So you can do whatever you want in that sense. But if you really want to kind of get a taste, right, of what is this? After all, you made a commitment. You took the trouble to come do the course. Then to get something out of it, it's like, I'm gonna leave behind what I think it should be, and kind of tune in and see, what is this approach about? How does this one work? So with that spirit, with that in mind, we're going to start now. Having gone to the wilderness, to the shade of a tree, or to an empty building. This is sometimes also referred to as isolating the body and isolating speech. It means going to a place, going to a room, going to a location where you don't have to engage in speech anymore, and you don't have to busy your body anymore. Finding a place where you can sit and sit comfortably. In the wilderness, this communicates the lack of other people that may want something from you, may want to involve you. To the shade of a tree, a place that is not too cold or not too hot. To an empty building, to a place where you will be left alone. And sit down, folding legs crosswise and holding body upright. So bring your presence of mind now to the experience of being seated. Here, you don't have to do anything extraordinary with the body, but to simply sit in a way where you are balanced, where weight is equally distributed. You're not putting strain on your back or any part of your body. And you're holding your body upright. Sitting cross-legged or sitting in a stable way is a physical condition that can contribute to the mind becoming quiet and unmoving, just as body becomes settled and unmoving. Holding body upright is a physical condition that in the process of holding the body upright, it can also cause the mind, provide the conditions for the mind to become bright and present, for the mind to be radiant. So now just take some moments to not even to fix anything, but just to be present, body and mind present in the same space. And what is this experience? What is this sensation of being seated? Try to see a sense of contentment that arises when we're able to sit in a comfortable way and not have a care to think about and to feel that you need to work on, but simply this is now time for you to become quiet and at ease. The third point is establishing mindfulness to the fore. So this is when we make some determination and say, and now on, for this time, for this session, I'm going to cultivate presence of mind. That is what mindfulness is talking about. Presence of mind. To have a stable and panoramic presence, where it's not necessary, it's not at all necessary to close your sense doors, but allow the sense doors to just be natural and open. But the mind is content to just be present here. So you can encourage your mind to do that. With a little bit discipline towards the body, mind can follow suit. And that discipline, it is said, includes being aware and mindful of how often we tend to fidget, tend to move, make these small little moves here, there, that we just can't settle. Just tune into that and just become aware of that. I don't necessarily suggest that you try to stop it, like in any harsh way, but just observe how frequently we would fidget. Oh, maybe put the hands further down. Oh, maybe pull the hands further up. When we recognize that going on, just for one short moment, ask, what is that about? And then drop it. Don't let the story start. The technique here is just to raise that question. What is that all about? What is that restlessness? Why is it that we cannot be satisfied? and then drop the question. Come back to presence of mind on this seat, in this body, in this space. And at your own pace, when you're ready, the last point here is always mindful, breathe in, mindful, breathe out. So when you're ready to work with the mind and breath together, then you can start by maybe first drawing in a few deep, long, deliberate breaths. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And as you inhale, you think all that which is good, all that which is kind, all that which is alive. You breathe in the vitality that exists, that you need, that will nourish you, both body and mind. Breathe in all of that. And as you breathe out, all that is extraneous, all that is not needed, you breathe it out, breathe it all out and relinquish. Do this a few times. Then after that, let go of this image, let go of this visualization, and just breathe naturally. But let your mind and breath become one, which is this fourth point. Always mindful, breathe in, mindful, breathe out. Breathing in long, you should discern. You should know directly, I am breathing in long. Or breathing out long, you should know directly, I am breathing out long. So initially, your breath slows down, becomes long and even and steady. Take time to enjoy that experience of nourishing breath, the vitality of breath, restoring all the tired, injured, hurting parts of your body by letting breath, the vitality of breath, to reach every corner of your body. Breathing in long, you should discern, I am breathing in long. And breathing out long, you should discern, you should know directly, I am breathing out long. The more your body and mind settle into their own places, finding that place of ease, finding that place of rest, then the body needs less oxygen in a very natural way. Breath becomes more subtle, softer, and shorter, in fact. So breathing in short, know directly, I am breathing in short. Or breathing out short, know directly, discern, I am breathing out short. Here we are not using force to make it long or short. The key verb in these first two stages is knowing directly, to discern, to recognize. Whereas the first two instructions tell us to simply know, to discern, to know directly. The next two instructions has the word to train. So here it's the connotation. Now you can put in effort into doing the following things, which is I will breathe in, experiencing the entire body, and I will breathe out, experiencing the entire body. At your own pace, when you are ready, you can try this. So that breath is not only arising and ceasing, coming in and leaving, and only through your nostrils. See if you can feel your entire body pulsing. As you breathe in, your entire body is pulling in the vitality of breath. And as you breathe out, your entire body is expelling that which is not needed, that which is tired, that which confuses, that which clouds. So train in experiencing the whole body pulsing and breathing. Breathing in, breathing out. Feel your entire body expanding, pushing outwards as you breathe in. And then the body settling in, pulling back in as you exhale. As breath arises from the center of your body expands, your mind becomes bright. As you exhale, your body contracts, breath dissolves, and your mind becomes quiet. Alternating between these two, as you breathe in, body expands, entire body expands, mind becomes bright. As you breathe out, the body contracts, mind becoming quiet and at ease. Train yourself with, I will breathe in, experiencing the entire body. Train yourself with, I will breathe out, experiencing the entire body. The steps involved here are designed to bring about, to create the best conditions for the body to truly be relaxed, be at ease, and in fact, to even for the body to begin to be able to experience a sense of well-being, a pleasant sensation. Some people have even reported a certain warmth building up, a warmth that is comforting, pleasant, pleasurable, your entire body. So the fourth instruction is train yourself with I will breathe in calming bodily fabrication, and train yourself with I will breathe out calming bodily fabrication. So what this is telling us is now with this experience of breath, with this mindfulness, this presence of mind anchored on the experience of breathing in and breathing out, direct this towards calming the body, soothing the body. Using your presence of mind, riding the movement of breath, calming and soothing whatever blockages, whatever tightness, whatever discomfort with the body. Let your mind be like a rider, let your breath be like a horse. I will breathe in, calming bodily fabrication. I will breathe out, calming bodily fabrication. Anything you noticed that surprised you in a good way, in a bad way? Ah,
Just relaxing bodily formations. My face was great.
your face.
This is so much tension.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Right. And so when you get to the fourth one, right, and say, so it's not exactly, so the comment was that there was a lot of tension on the face. And so by the time the fourth instruction of calming bodily fabrication, just kind of, just even, registering that breath can do that, then just let breath do it. It's not like you're doing anything. That point about a lot of tension in the face, right? Many of us have that because of all our senses. The way modern technology is, it's above and beyond these five senses. The visual sense has taken like completely over because we read so much on our phone. Everything was so visually. So it tends to kind of pull things here. So there's like one way of training in this mindfulness of breathing. A very common instruction is to place your focus here, yeah, where the breath goes in and out, right around the tip of the nose. I can never do this. For me, I can never do this because I grew up, in Malaysia, and I had these allergies, and always I have hay fever. So if I put my attention on the nose, I'll start getting itchy and everything. So I've never used that, instruction. But this has something to do with, so you have to test it out and experiment. Yeah? On some days, where it's feeling really sluggish, then bringing attention to here can kind of pull everything together. But on other days where a lot of tension on the face, then don't do this. Probably will make it worse. It varies from person to person. And then the instruction is to bring breath, your awareness of breath, down to the belly. Like the center of the body is here, where the belly is. I mean, that's how we developed. We started here. Then over time, we got more and more here. Then you say, I don't know, I feel kind of, yeah, top heavy, So we want to bring mind down to here. There's a mysterious passage in a Taoist, a famous Taoist text, Tao Te Ching. One layer of the Tao Te Ching, not a Buddhist text, but nonetheless, it has some interesting things to say that is relevant here. One of the passages in the Tao Te Ching says, the sage king should rule his people by filling their stomachs and emptying their minds. The outer layer of the Tao Te Ching, in fact, scholars, doing the things that they do, they say that the outer layer of the Tao Te Ching was in fact a manual for statecraft written by a minister for a king having a small state. And this was during the period of time in Chinese history called the Warring States, because the Zhou dynasty effectively has been decimated then all the different states have their different kings, and these different kings are all conniving to swallow up and to build a new big dynasty. So it was probably written for a small ruler, telling the small ruler how to manage his state and escape this fight. And so on that level, the Tao Te Ching is saying, lay low. On that level, the Tao Te Ching is also saying, just make sure your citizens are filled. Don't ask, don't create so many questions for them, because then they get curious. Then your trouble starts. So that's a kind of a maybe cynical read of what the minister is up to. But the Tao Te Ching has also been used by many people in the Taoists, spiritual people, as a metaphor for precisely what we're talking about here. Fill the stomach, empty the mind. Don't think so much. And the breath, the energy, don't let it be up here. Ground the energy and fill the stomach. So directly related to our breath, mindfulness of breath, using this to calm the body. I think you had a question or comment. Yeah.
Where I put my eyes.
Ah.
I
Okay.
tend to put my eyes up here when I reading, then read down when I lay down. Is it right or?
Okay. So the question is what to do with the eyes. Actually, also here, there is no instruction to close your eyes in the first place. So in this tradition, we say, actually, don't close your eyes. First thing, you're like, what? Meditation? Don't close your eyes? Correct. Don't close your eyes. And then what you do is you let your eyes, right, gaze downwards towards the, bridge of your nose, tip of your nose, and down to about a foot or two to that space in front. Yeah. Yeah. So then the eyes don't move. In the teachings on the subtle body, the energetic body, and the breath body, it says that where sight goes, mind goes. So that's why when you were breathing in, you because your eyes were closed, then you can kind of, your eyeballs can kind of go up, right? Then it can cause, kind of fluttering of energy. So just let your gaze downwards. Then when you become lethargic, you can raise your gaze and then lower your gaze. So despite, right, the body generally not moving, not fidgeting, but you don't have to torture yourself, especially not used to sitting on the floor, then even when you're going to move, right, do it very deliberately and slowly. Make changes, move your legs, right? So despite generally not moving, right, but on the mental level, things are going on. In this meditation, it doesn't mean, again, like narrowing your mind to only do one thing. There's no instruction like that. In fact, these 4 stages tell us, the instructions tell us, right, quite clearly, it's a full-bodied experience. And so you use different like abilities of your mind to adjust. It's like it's like someone tuning the piano. You're tuning your mind. You're listening. Right? You're listening to the body. You're listening to the mind, and you're like, okay, that need to tighten there a little bit. There need to loosen it a little bit. So it's you're allowing the presence of mind to not be narrow, but to actually kind of. Someone once compared, this kind of meditation to driving. To driving. So there is this is a trick, you get stuck in here, you can't leave. That door is a little kind of confusing. The handle is there, but that's not where you go. It's the other side. Some kind of insider Buddhist joke. But some I've heard this, and I think it works very well. Think of it like driving. So right now we are driving, but we're driving like crazy. But we have all experienced the kind of driving where your music is not on, the kids are not yelling and screaming, you are completely present, and you are awake, you are alert, and you're actually enjoying it. And when that is happening, right, you are focused, but you're not like, try driving with single-minded focus. You're going to get into a wreck. But it's a panoramic presence of mind, right? You're relaxed. You're not exhausted, but your mind, in a very relaxed way, is actually monitoring everything. From the corner of your eye, you can see something is happening, and you move accordingly. This is the kind of presence of mind we're talking about. And then the Buddha will say this is more practical. This can actually make a difference. Right? And when you step off the cushion, you can practice forms of meditation, including some taught within the Buddhist tradition, where you put the mind temporarily in a heightened state, in a what you might call elevated state of mind, where it can feel, very peaceful, very blissful, very satisfying. But the problem is, you have to do your dishes, you have to go to work, you have to pay your bills, and then what happens? Then you even resent doing those other things. Oh, I would only do that. Doesn't work so well. There are questions from our friends.
Yes,
Yes.
we have a question. Why, when we become aware of distraction, like fidgeting, do we ask, what's that about, before bringing our attention back to the breath? Why not just go back to the breath without asking that question, especially since we're not meant to answer it?
Why ask the question if I'm not meant to answer it? Why not just go back to the breath? Yeah, normally they'll be like, oh, if you see you're going to fidget, go back to the breath, go back to the breath. You could try that, see how well, if that serves you. Maybe it would. This one of just asking, what is that, right? And then drop it. The dropping it is important. But that one moment of raising that question is in the direction of developing understanding, insight. Right? What's that fidgeting about? That's it. Not answering it doesn't mean answers don't arise. You're calling attention to, look at how I fidget. And what is that all about? Then come back to breath. So this is a way to begin to cultivate insight or wisdom. There is the way of like control, controlling yourself so that you don't, wreck a car, or there is the way of control. And initially, control is very useful. But in the end, control is not what we're aiming for, but understanding. Then with understanding, you just stop doing things that will harm. But again, these are just suggestions. There are no commandments in working with our minds, our hearts. They are only suggestions. The Buddha gave these suggestions. Now you try. See what works.
I have a question regarding that. In past years, dealing with the emotional shock of trying to become Buddhist, I've become impatient, anxious, or get emotionally affected rather easily. I wonder if there's a way to use this meditation to develop more stability in the midst of a lot of emotional stimuli, both internal or external.
Yeah. Trying too hard to be Buddhist. Trying too hard to be a good Buddhist. Trying too hard to be a Buddha. All of this is just becoming. And all becomings are driven by the three poisons, the Buddha says. Ignorance, attachment, and aversion. Not from a place of understanding. To want to become this, to want to become that. Those are the three. To want to become something, to want to become nothing. These are both the push and the pull. The practice here is to relinquish. Again, not relinquish out of fed up, out of disappointment, but to relinquish out of understanding, insight. And so first thing to do, is first understand what the Buddha taught. So in that sense, listening to the teachings, skillfully listening to the teachings, and understanding at the heart of what the Buddha is teaching. Actually, I feel, there's a lot of confusion out there in here, as to what is the Buddha teaching us. For some of us, the decision to become Buddhist is just to spite the family. If you're young, that's probably, part of the mix there. If you're older, the people that matters, they're dead now. So that is no longer in play, right? Unless you figure, maybe I'll annoy my kids this way. Because it's not mainstream religion here. So there could be a little bit of that going on. Or a little bit of like, I'm more sophisticated than my neighbors. So watch out for that, right? These are identities that we want to build. So the Buddha says, as long as we're building a sense of I based on constantly shifting, changing phenomena, you will never find the satisfaction you're looking for. That's basically the teaching on not self. As in anything that we build our sense of self on, that is changing, shifting, and unreliable, cannot provide us the sense of self that we need, that we want to count on. relinquish that. Don't own it. Normally people say, own it, own it, own it. You know? Own your la la la, whatever it is, right? Here, don't own it. But again, if you don't own it out of blindness, that's what we call spiritual bypassing. But there is the Buddha's way of not owning it. And that arises from understanding and relinquishing. To relinquish. Like, no need. The second tetrad, now page 6. This tetrad, we shift from the obvious and the first place to train, which is breath and body together, and using breath, providing the body with the best conditions to be at ease, to be relaxed. When the body is not feeling threatened, busy, falling into pieces, then the mind settles. And the mind, then the more the mind settles, the happier the body gets. And so when these two come together like this, right, then the Buddha says, train yourself with, I will breathe in. So here, the next four, in fact, the rest of it all, the word train is there. So now you begin to put in a little bit of effort and a little bit more effort and a little bit more effort. But it cannot be the frantic energy type of effort. This is the kind of effort where you're like, let me nudge. Let me nudge myself. So in answering that last question about, how does a, Buddhist PTSD, person kind of come back to a practice in a healthy way. It's basically, don't push, don't force. Try to develop understanding. Don't subscribe to things like, it's bad to have attachment. Oh, what's that good for? Except to feel bad about having attachment. That's not going to solve any problems. It's going to just make it worse. It's not bad to have attachment. Tune into that experience of being attached. And then feel it. Lean into it, actually. Don't look away. Lean into it. And when you lean into it, you begin to feel, its weight. And then you carry it around, and you carry it around, and you carry it around. And the more you lean into it, the more you will notice all its qualities. In this case, negative qualities. Then when you are tired enough, nobody needs to tell you what to do with it. The thing is, why we are still kind of, in this mess that the Buddha calls samsara, is because we have incredible ability to distract ourselves when suffering arises. Everything in our culture, from pharmaceuticals, starting with pharmaceuticals, to movie makers, and everywhere in between, is selling us distractions. Distractions from what? Distractions from paying attention when suffering has turned up. Oh, I need some ice cream. One kind of distraction, not so harmful. Some of these distractions are more harmful than others. But the real harm with all these distractions is it keeps pulling us away so that we don't get to the bottom of where did that suffering come from. So what the Buddha's aim is to help us lean into suffering skillfully. You can better lean into suffering if you have learned how to relax body and mind. You can have a better handle at suffering. No, not as a bomb, to cool down the suffering. No, but it's sort of like saying it gives you more abilities and skill to lean into a situation that is difficult, that is heavy, that is messy. If you know how to, right? Breathe in, experiencing the body. Breathe out, experiencing the body. Breathe in, calming bodily formations. Breathe out, calming bodily formations. And then next, I will breathe in, experiencing rapture, followed by I will breathe in, experiencing happiness. What is the difference here? This is 2 stages. The first one is a loud kind of feeling good. The second is a quiet kind of feeling good. However, they are translated into English. Another translation I've seen recently is sukha is usually translated as happiness because it's the opposite of dukkha. And dukkha is suffering, then sukha is happiness. But in this case, it's more helpful if you use the word ease. So the first one is rapture. Right? It's a loud kind of like, right? And then the second is a evening out of that. In some of the commentaries, they say the first one is like when you're very like thirsty, the first one is when suddenly someone says, "Look over there. There's water." That's the next stage is actually when you're quenching your thirst. It's not loud anymore. It's not excitement anymore. It's just, it's good. So these are the 2 stages. So here, you actually deliberately, on the basis of the last stage where bodily formations have been like, kind of pacified, where the inflammation has died down, right? In stage 5, you are actively saying, now feel joy, feel rapture. And that too is a matter of tuning in. Because this body and mind has its own capacity and natural capacity of feeling pleasure. And so contrary to the general impressions, Buddhism has nothing against pleasure. In fact, this is using pleasure. But Buddhism does critique the pleasure that we seek from chasing sensory experiences. Right? Sensory pleasures. The Buddha says, be careful there. Watch out. Yes.
Page 5, Article 4. Train yourself with calming bodily application. Could you give some examples of bodily applications? What is that?
Oh yeah, last week we talked about this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But it's basically when you begin, no, it's fine. What is what bodily fabrications? It's like the body is constantly at work. Yeah. And no, not even that. It's just the body is a constantly, like a machine. And when the machine is at work, it gives out heat. And if you don't know how to dissipate the heat, it builds up. Then as it builds up, then it rubs against each other like a vehicle, like a car, It gets worse and worse and worse. And that gives rise to restlessness. And even in Buddhist-based medical traditions, like Tibetan, talks about how disease, illness, is the result of the accumulated result of bodily stress. And built up. So I said, these days, the very trendy term, especially among astral types that hang out at Dobra, because I've heard so many conversations there.
So you're
about
trendy types.
No, I'm a spy. I just to be a fly on the wall and see what people are talking about. Inflammation, inflammation, this inflammation, that inflammation, this inflammation, that, Then of course, everybody has the idea of how to calm the inflammation, Take turmeric and take cinnamon and this and that. It depends, who happens to be there. But they all agree that, inflammation is a problem. They're like, wow, 2,500 years ago, the Buddha already talked about this. That's the bodily fabrication. So on the most kind of obvious level, the busyness of the body. Then there are more subtle types of bodily fabrication, then all the way down to the aggregates coming together. The attachment that provides the glue, to glue this all together. To that level of bodily fabrication, you want to calm down, ease that. Then from there, you come to 5 and 6. Now, all I want to do here, I think we don't have a lot of time left, to point out that 7 and 8, right? You see how 7 and 8, I will breathe in experiencing mental fabrication. I will breathe out experiencing mental fabrication. And then 8, I will breathe in calming mental fabrication. I will breathe out calming mental fabrication. So this is like the same process, slightly adjusted, like the last set. The last set ends with calming bodily fabrication. This second set ends with calming mental fabrication. But note how the Buddha was very careful to not tell you to experience mental fabrication too early in the process, too early in the game, which is probably the PTSD that the person was describing. Too early on in the game, given all these ideals about a good Buddhist is like this, and then like this, and like this, and like this, and like this, and like this. And then now all you're trying to do is to live up to someone's expectations. Portrait of a good Buddhist, right? But beyond that, here, really the Buddha is helping us. First, are you able to experience rapture and happiness? Not through distractions, not through sensory experiences, but through skillfully working with body and mind and letting body and mind give rise to this innate. So in tantric language, we say this innate bliss. So allowing this innate meaning that it's a natural ability for us to be able to experience this pleasure. So get good at doing that, but that is not the end itself. That provides again, right? The best conditions. Now the best conditions to do what? The best conditions to look at the mess. Which is mental fabrication. Yeah, so at this, at 7, right? You are turning up the temperature again. And before you're cooling the temperature down. Now you're turning it up, now with skill. Because why? It's not like you're stirring up mental fabrication. You're leaning into it to see how much of the mind is jumping from object to object to object to object to object. And with every object, all it's doing is like, don't like, don't care, like, don't like, don't care, like, don't like, don't care, like, don't like, don't care. That's the feeling we're talking about here. Yeah, it's not even the rest of that story. It's just walking around like, don't like, don't care, like, don't like, don't care, like, don't like, don't care. It's talking about noticing that. And when you notice that, it says, oh my gosh, this is exhausting. Then you think, I better not meditate. This meditate is like exhausting me. No, the instructions say, no, it's not that you are creating more stress. It's like all this stress is going on in the background. You just never notice it. So at 7, you begin to notice all the time, even just sitting here, it's either like, don't like, or don't care. All our autobiographies in 3 words, like, don't care. The rest, fill it out as necessary to sell your book. But when you get right down to it, it's just 3 words, like, don't care, like, don't care. And all of that is constantly going on. And so then we wear ourselves out. Because it doesn't stay in the level of like, don't care. For every decision of like, don't care, one story goes off that way. And it's going on. It's just you're not noticing it. So it's a very busy, crowded space. And all of it trying to get your attention. We deal with that in the next tetrad, where it's mind. Here we're only noticing the like, don't care, like, don't care. Then calm it. Now deliberately, just as you calm your body, now with breath. So throughout the 16 stages, you see this pattern of, put yourself in a good place. Stir things up a little bit. Learn something. Put it down. And then go back to calm. Then again, instigate something. Look at it. Put it down. It goes like that throughout the 16. It's not like a, get higher, 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 higher. Kaboom. That's not what's going on here. If you look at, for example, 15. For example, 15 is called Nirodha, cessation. Normally, that word is basically the 3rd noble truth is called Nirodha, cessation. So cessation, in other words, is called nirvana. Okay? So you're like, wait, 15 is already nirvana. What else is there to do? I thought that was it. You need to relinquish 16. So the final point is relinquish. Even nirvana, we can turn it into a stress point. let go. I mean, it sounds like just very simple, and in many ways, it's very simple. But because we have become so complicated, because the energy has risen up here. If you know how to bring it down to here, then everything can become very simple. This, is constantly tricking you. This doesn't trick, especially when it's kind of big. The body doesn't lie, so to say, but the mind is constantly up to. Because it's in a way, right? If you look at it from the perspective of evolutionary biology, I mean, it is the way that it is in part because it is what was needed for the survival of this particular species. But then it's gone to an extreme now. There's a book called it's an obnoxious title. Every time I talk about this book, I will first apologize for the obnoxious title. Why Buddhism is True. It's really obnoxious. But the book is good. So if you can ignore the title and don't go look at that and go, yeah, it's true. That's another, like image. Oh, I belong to this, So ignore the title. But the book is really good. I liked it. It's written by someone who is schooled in evolutionary biology and psychology. And then he's also a practitioner of especially the 16 stages, this particular form of Buddhist meditation. And he helps us see how, in kind of scientific terms, in particular, the dukkha that the Buddha is talking about, and what the Buddha is helping us overcome. So part of what he's saying is that what started off as important things, once upon a time, is not relevant here anymore. When you lived in a world where your world was more or less everyone that you know, if someone tries to take advantage of you, right, you're not letting them do that by, getting angry. Had a functional purpose, right? Is to tell the person, don't do this again. But now that, right, has turned into road rage, that person you're never going to see that person ever again. What's the point of that anger? When you got cut off by someone. But we cannot control it anymore. So ironically, right, those instincts that ensured that as a species we're still here and now we're dominating all the others is what's going to ultimately destroy all of us. If we don't do something about it. So in that way, Buddhist practice is absolutely not natural. In that way, it's not natural at all. But that natural has become a prison that serves no purpose. The truth of inconstancy that then gives rise to dispassion. This is the last four. That then allows us to experience cessation, which then needs to be followed by relinquishing. These are like the kind of final direction that these trainings are taking us to. So inconstancy is usually translated as impermanence. Impermanence. So there, right? This impermanence. In fact, right from the beginning, we are already training. But that's on the periphery. It assumes center stage when it comes to stage 13. How? The object of meditation itself. Breathing is a process of inconstancy. Superficially, we think, every breath is the same. No, no two breaths is the same. And in, out, rising, falling, expanding, contracting, one following the other. And at any given moment, only one. That moment exists. Then the next moment, then the next moment, the next moment. So all the way to 13, we are already sensitizing ourselves to this theme of inconstancy. Then in 13, we directly experience, not as a concept, because we have trained to start noticing inconstancy in everything, uncertainty, not sure, including, can you be so sure that this is not the last breath that you're taking? No. For planning purposes, we pretend that it is not. Yeah, I mean, we have a schedule here. Well, who is volunteering tomorrow to open the space? For planning purposes, we are all pretending that you're not going to die in the next moment. But all of history of this world tells us not true. But never mind. It's rather inconvenient to believe in that truth. So let's all just, agree that in this Humpty Dumpty world, everything would just be fine. So this is the confusion of the ignorance that the Buddha is talking about. So anyway, we have passed 9 o'clock. We're going to stop here. So please turn to page 9. With these words, we share the good that we have experienced, the good that we have gained with all beings everywhere. By this merit may I achieve the all-knowing state. May all who wander on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating enemies of faults and delusions, just as heroic Manjushri knows everything as it is, and Samantava is thus as well, so too will I follow in their path and perfectly dedicate all the virtues accumulated. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. May the life of teachers, glory of the teachings be firm. May this world be filled with holders of the teachings. May the fortunes possessed by benefactors of the teachings increase. May all be auspicious so that the teachings remain perpetually. Thank you. So next Thursday, we will go as far as we can go. There's no point, rushing all the 16 stages. Again, as I said the last time, if we can park ourselves, even in the first 4, it will make such a difference, really, to your experience of this body-mind construct and really change the way we relate to a lot of things. Very, effective, practical, but subtle. No big changes, but over time, you will discover, if you stay with this, over time you'll discover like, oh, I'm not like that anymore. Although your partner might say, now you're boring. We have someone in our Sangha that says, yeah, my wife complains that I'm boring now. He used to yell and scream all the time. Anyway, this Sunday, we are going to gather up at the land, that project there, the Dragong Forest Hermitage. If you want to carpool or caravan from here, we're leaving here right at 9. So come here a little bit before 9, and then we will go up. If you have not seen the land yet, I would say now is a very good time to go up, because it's right before it gets all jungly. The ground stuff all died down because of the winter. Now it's just waking up. So in a month, if you go, only the areas we have cleared, you're able to see. Then the rest is all, you need a machete to cut and slash your way through. Or wait until, and the fall, then it's cold and all of that. But now it's a really good time. So if you can join us on Sunday, once we get there, we're going to do a smoke cleansing offering, a Tibetan Buddhist ritual. That will last for about half an hour, 40 minutes. We normally do that in the temple every Sunday, starting at 10. But this Sunday, we're not going to be here to do this because we're going up to the land. If you want to go straight there yourself, if you live, in the north part of town, then talk to me, talk to Bill Laity, and we'll get information to you. Another way to meet us is normally when we get up there, some of us will stop at the Ingalls in Burnsville. So around 9:45, we stop there, get snacks, go to the bathroom, get a coffee. And so we are usually in the parking lot there around 9:45. It's a good time to come up. So this Forest Hermitage is going to be the future home for those who choose to live a life of simplicity as Buddhist monks and nuns. So for full-time residents, it's intended to be for monks and nuns. But the monks and nuns are there in a way, as the Buddha said to them when he first created the order of monks and nuns. He said to them, wander forth for the good of the many, for the welfare of the many. And how monks and nuns do that is to live a life of simplicity and to hold the space for such simplicity. So along those lines, we will also build individual cabins, simple cabins that people can go up and stay in for any amount of length of time. Of course, we're going to work out a process, that first time you come, you can spend maximum of 3 nights and then a week, and, make sure that it's the right place for you. And also in that place, I said there are 3 main rules when you come up and, stay with us. The first rule is don't do what we don't do. Yeah. To do what we do might be asking too much. So we just say, don't do what we don't do when you are up there. Secondly is you eat with us. And then thirdly is you work with us. You don't have to practice with us. You're welcome to practice with us, but that's not required. Mm. And that's how, historically, Buddhist monasteries, nunneries held the space for that. Then you come and you see, that there are different ways of living our lives. In a way, I think the Buddha intended these monks and nuns to serve as what now we have as statues. The statues, the images are to communicate a state of being. Really. They're geared towards communicating the message of a state of being that is possible. But especially in the early period, when the Buddha was walking the good earth, there were no statues and images. That came later out of necessity, right? But fundamentally, he wanted his disciples to serve the same purpose that now sacred images are serving, which is principally to remind us, to tell us, there's a different way always. There is a different choice that we can make. So the aspiration is the monastics that choose to live there will embody that, but not with a lot of expectations. Again, then it becomes a gathering point for suffering. Ironically, we can only do that if we know how to relinquish, to let go. So this is a long-term project, and there's no hurry, but we also would like to get things started there. So we need volunteers, we need help. This Sunday, we may be doing some planting of flowers, possibly if we get some donated, or if you want to bring extra bulbs or whatever you have, we would like to plant, flowers there. Having said, the monastics should really play the role of what images are playing. Somebody donated an outdoor stone Buddha for us because they're moving away. It's in the back of my car, so we're going to put it up there, set up something like that. So come up. You don't have to work if you have not seen it yet. I'm happy to have you as an excuse to not work, and I'll show you around. As I said to rest of you, because there's no signals there, so I can't live stream and walk and show you the land. So whenever you're able to come to Asheville, please come to the Forest Hermitage. Thank you so much. Have a good night. We'll see you next week.